Wonderful episode. We're going back into the movie world. The Swan Princess. Nobody's heard of it? Um, yeah, I actually have seen it. I'm sure some of you have. It's an old animated film. I don't know how old. I just know it's old. You know, a movie is old, especially nowadays with like like with flat screens that we have, and you put like a DVD in, and the screen kind of like shortens. You get giant, you know, things on the side, and the window gets closed in, and you're like, oh no, that's how I knew, right? Like she had it on DVD, and it was an old, very old. I mean, it's an old movie, but I was like, oh, whoa, what's this? And so I put it in, and all of a sudden the screen shortened, and I was like, here are some of my thoughts, and boy, do I have some thoughts. It's actually super interesting. I got super emotional during this film. This old animated movie like hit me right in the sweet spot. I have no idea why. I was like, all right, I'll watch this movie and like do this whole thing and like make this review. I don't know how I'm gonna get into it. Oh my goodness. I don't know why. I was hooked as soon as I hit play. I don't know if like, oh, man, I hit play and I was like, and I just dove right down the rabbit hole. I watched it. I really enjoyed it. Now, if I watched it today, maybe I wouldn't have liked it as much as I did yesterday. Whatever I was doing yesterday, I was in the mood for this movie because it got me right in the feels. There were a few times where I was starting to like tear up a little bit, right? And I kept having to like, as a guy does, you can't be crying during an animated film alone. One, why are you watching an old animated film alone in no, right? Like that's what I was telling myself, and here I am, like, oh my goodness, I hope they fall in love. Like really, like we're laying on the tears. And there's only one thing you can really do. It's in those moments, like when you start feeling the emotions coming. Because guys, we don't do well with emotions at all. And even this movie kind of hints to that. I'll get there. But you start to feel emotions. We don't do feelings. Well, what is this? Wait, no, thank you. So you gotta walk away, and you gotta give yourself like a stern talking to, like you. So you got. So I walked away, and I walked away into another room, and I went, you stop that crying right now. This is just an animated film. Why are you wussing out for? Just quit your whining and get back in there and finish that movie. But it's okay. Yeah, that's right. And you slap yourself a little bit. You go, yeah, okay. Lift something heavy. I don't know. And then you go back and you watch, and 20 minutes later, there I am. And about that, and she said, and you gotta walk away again. You walk away again, and this time it's even more stern. You're like, all right, really, like what? No, not again, not this time. Okay, that's what I did. In fact, I walked past my girlfriend who was in the other room like working, and I just was like, not every time. Like every time these movies, for some reason, they hit me right in the feels. Anyways, so I go and lift some more heavy things, as you do, because you gotta either lift something, or like you gotta do something that's like, or go to a Home Depot. That's always I found, recharge the man batteries, as I call it. You walk into a Home Depot, the lumber and construction, just manly stuff. I don't know. Just to block away those emotions. So clearly, the movie got to me. However, the beginning scenes, okay, like we're just gonna dive into some of my like favorite moments, and then we'll go into some of the characters. So there's a scene in the beginning of the movie where, for those who don't know, the Swan Princess is basically two kingdoms. You got king over here, queen over here, and they're like, one has a boy and one has a girl, and they're like, oh, if we just make these people hang out, all the time, when they're older, they'll fall in love, we'll reunite the kingdoms, da 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 da. Of course, the king over here that's got the daughter, like shooed somebody away that was like some magician magic guy, and Now that guy's off for revenge. All right, that'll. I'm not gonna go over a synopsis of the movie. If you want to go watch the movie, go watch the movie. I just want to talk about the fun little scenes and then the characters, because that's what we're here to do. You can watch it on your own time, or don't watch it at all and just listen to this. So we're in the beginning of the scene, right? And these two parents are forcing their kids to now hang out because they want to blossom a relationship. Which I was like, on the one hand, no. Quit forcing your kids to do things, all right? Let them be who they want to be. Like, I mean, clearly evident that they knew something was going on and they did not want to, like, why am I here? Plus, when they first meet, I mean, the kid's like, they're like 7 years old. I mean, and the boy's like, I've never even been around a girl, of course, right? And you're like, what, why? And your mom's behind you? I don't think so. Like, this is an awkward, what, and how do I, and you're here, and I don't want to do this. This doesn't look fun at all. Like, and same with the girl. She's like, what, why, what? Like, I'll make at least she, like, girls, they always try to make the best out of a worst case scenario, right? Guys are just like, I don't want to do this. Well, they don't say anything. Girls are like, well, hey, what's going on? And guys are like, especially like, if you're a guy, the first time you like try to talk to a girl, or someone you might be like interested in somehow, some way, but you're like, who, he, who, what? No. And it's so funny because like this is exactly how it played out. Like the mom was like, all right, go introduce yourself. And the boy's like, come on, I don't want to do that. Hi. Okay, I'm done. And then, no, go back. Oh, but come on, I said hello. I did the thing. You wanted me to say hello. I said hello. And then so, okay, we're here. Whoa, okay, I'm done. And then kept shooing it back. And the whole time I thought about that, I just thought like back when I was a kid, a very similar thing happened to me, right? My parents had taken me out of school to go to lunch, woo for me, for some reason, can't remember why. And we went to TGIF, right? Thank goodness it's Friday. I think that's what, right? And it's a restaurant. And it wasn't Friday though, but we went there for lunch and we're there. And this waitress comes up and I'm like, I couldn't have been older than 10 years old, right? And this, like, of course, if in my eyes, this gorgeous waitress walks out, and I've never, no. So, like, I've never talked to it. Not that age, except for, like, no. And so she walks up, how's everybody doing? What, can I get you started with any drinks? And I'm like, I'll take some water. I'm just looking down because I'm like, I can't. This is not going to work. And my parents are like, are you kidding me? Look her in the eyes when you're talking to her. You're talking to a human being. Look them in their eyes. Very polite, natural thing to do. I'm terrified out of my mind. I don't want to look this person in the like. What if my face turns all red? I don't know. So I'm like, I'll take some water. What? I didn't want water. And then, she goes, gets water, comes back. Oh, what would you like to order? And so, okay, this time I'm clear because I can just look at the menu, right? That's not rude. I need to read what I want to order. Perfect scapegoat. I was like, okay, I'll take the... and because, my parents are like, look her in the eyes. I'm like, okay, well, what if I just lifted this up a little bit? What if I had give me that menu. You know what you want to order. All right. I'll take, damn it. So it's a tough situation to be in. I got it. They force these two kids to hang out every summer. And of course, like, they don't want to hang out. So they, the boy tries to do the boy thing, which is, we're just going to like play a bunch of like games outdoors and you won't be able to keep up. Well, she can keep up. So that doesn't, so it's just a back and forth. And as they grow older, they're like, all right, now I really know what's going on. I don't want this. Like, no, thank you. Like there is that saying like opposites attract. Like I think it really shows kind of well here. At least I saw it play out kind of well, because you kind of see the factor of them being such different personalities and kind of wanting different things, but they have this unique emotional connection that they didn't even realize. And it's only because they understand where each other has been throughout all this time. Even though they've been forced in the same situations together, and even though they didn't want to be there, at least they had each other throughout the whole chaos. And this is one of those situations where it turns out good. It's not one of those where it's like they get forced into doing it and they have to do it, and whatever those cases may be. In this situation, they found a commonality in that pain is kind of like an apt word, but I mean, like, it's more than that. I mean, because life is pain, and I know that's a dumb thing to say, but that struggle of that grind, like, you can really show that, like, because in most animated movies, like, it's like, oh, the love is just like a skyrocket, right? Just it's going up and up and up and up. But this kind of like ebbs and flows, and you see the give and take and the battle of personalities and the pull that each other's gives. Like, the things that are the qualities that represent the princess, right, pull out the best in the prince, and the qualities in the prince pull out the best qualities of the princess when they're together. Yeah, they butt heads, and yeah, they argue, and they don't get along all the time. Who does? But they have this solid connection, right? This connection that goes beyond the trivial things of, oh, well, I don't want to do that, or I don't agree with that, or why would you say that, right? Like, there's this great there's this great moment when they meet, or when they finally realize that they are in love, and of course, like, again, the guy has no idea how to handle his emotions, so he's just he's like, oh my goodness, holy crap, like, and he's like, you're beautiful, right? Because that's what I mean. What more does a guy have? He's not gonna. If you've been here for the last 10 minutes, guys can't express their emotions, right? Especially back when this movie was made. So he was just like, "Oh, you're beautiful," and she goes, "Well, hey," he goes, "Yeah, you're beautiful. Let's get married. Let's get married." Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Everyone's like cheering and stuff, and she's like, "Hey, whoa, wait a minute. I mean, yeah, thank you for the compliment, but what else? I mean, if we're gonna get married and things like that, like, what else is there than more? What else more than I'm beautiful, right?" And the guy's just like, you never want to hear the follow-up question, right? Like, guys in particular, like, we love to hit them with the compliments and get that brownie points. But the follow-up question's like, it took us all day just to work up that one compliment, right? That's all we got. It's all the emotion, everything you want us to say. When he said, "You're beautiful," that was it. That was I love you. That was you're amazing. That was you're smart. You're educated. You challenge me. Those were all the things like you wanted to hear. But all week we could only formulate them into a word that makes sense. Beautiful. Yeah, that sums up you look good. You're beautiful. Your inside's beautiful. It's beautiful, right? And he goes, "What?" And she's like, "What else?" And what else is there, right? Like, I just gave you the whole bubble. And she's like, "Oh, no," and rightfully so, right? Rightfully so. Like, if someone was just to say, "Is it pretty? That is that it?" Of course, you're gonna respond like, no," and I'm gonna get out of here, because you need to rethink that, right? Because you want the emotion, you want to understand that he feels the same way. Completely understandable, and of course, he's baffled, right? Like, we would all be like, "Hey, wait a minute. I said you're beautiful, and I did the whole thing. I pronounced my love. We're gonna get married. What? How is that not enough? You want more? What is this? We're gonna go slay a dragon? I'll slay a dragon, right? Because men, we can do action, right? If there's you want any guy, you want to know if you're loved. Let me tell you this right now, and this is no like support for anybody, but just in case, it could help somebody, could help nobody. But if you want to help, Guys, what guys do is they're men of action, right? Hopefully. I mean, that's what we. I mean, at the core, I think that's what we do, right? Uh, Tell me you love me. I will build you a house. That there you go. Like that's isn't that this? No, okay. So that he like thought, hey, wait a minute, and he's even talking to his servant, like like later he's like, or his guard or confidant or whatever, and he's like, I don't get what I did wrong, and the confidant, of course, like this guy, he's a much older gentleman, had some experiences, totally realizes that like that this is just a young impatient man who doesn't understand like, oh man, you gotta. I know it's difficult, and I know you don't have it in you, but you gotta put it into words. Like you could have said anything, right? Anything would have done it, other than isn't that it? Like you could have said you're smart. You could have thrown any bone, right? Just stepped in one direction, right? But oh man, if he goes, you could write a book in 5 syllables on how to lose a girl, and I thought that was beautiful characters because those two scenes were okay. One scene, I'll do one more because there is the ending that I really want to touch on before I get into the characters. The ending scene I thought was super emotional because what we see is we see the hero fail, right? In the moment of triumph, he fails. He tells the wrong woman, right? Like, because what has happened is the wizard, you know, has put a spell on the girl. She turns into a swan every day, and at moonlight, she turns into a girl, and the dude's been trying to get her to marry her so that he can run the kingdom. And so, but in the end here, the wizard has tricked the prince by tricking this girl and this other person and making her look like the princess. And so he, right, and you gotta look at it from the prince's perspective, like. You have to imagine, like, when it all went down, right, and the princess got turned into a swan. Like everybody thought she died, right, because the king winds up getting killed by this magician villain type person, and so for years, right, only the prince thinks that she's alive and just does everything he can day in and day out to find her, and I thought that was really interesting, and it's a theme that kind of comes up over and over again, like this the power of belief and your understanding of who you are and what you're capable of. Anyone, even if like nobody else believes you, as long as you believe it and you keep going for it, that is what matters. Like, are you holding yourself to certain standards that you want to abide by? It doesn't matter what anybody else believes as long as you believe, because like nobody believed this girl was alive. Right, like after the father got killed, she disappeared. Like everyone thought she's gone. The great animal, got her. But he did not. He did not lose hope. Neither did she. She did not lose hope that this guy was going to come and find her. And the fact that they held on to that belief through every trial and tribulation that they both had to overcome before reaching this kind of final moment, because they do get to this moment where he does find her, and she basically goes, hey, look, I turn into a swan every night. You got to pronounce my love, and you got to show it to the world. Like, you can't just say I'm pretty here. Like, you gotta do something. And he goes, I've been doing stuff this whole time, so I'll easy peasy. So by the end, he's been tricked. But I mean, anyone could have been fooled, right? Like, I mean, it's an exact. I mean, it's not even a twin. I mean, it is. She's been mad. This person's been magicked to look 100% like the princess. Not only that, she's got emolets that were hers, and from his perspective, look, like he just went through all of this, right? And he finally, like, nobody else knows this plan. Like, he's done all this effort. He does kind of feel like something's off, but on the other hand, he's like, it could just be the curse. Like, let me just get through this and secure the moment. And he goes, I want to make an announcement. I love you. And of course, as that's happening, the real princess is a swan, because there's and she can't get in, she can't break the thing, and because she didn't get her, the love wasn't pronounced to her, right? The spell like kind of breaks in. She starts like, yikes. And I thought that was really interesting because I was really expecting like the princess to kind of fly in, be like, oh no, and like, kind of save like the moment. But it was interesting to see the guy kind of fail, right? Because what we see is, he does everything in his power to right his wrong. Like he realizes he's made a mistake and he fights the bad guy and he goes to the real princess and he goes, all that I said, it was for you, it's for you. I want you to know it was for you. And she knew that. And she knew that deep down, and she was able to forgive or see past, looked at everything, right? She knew, right? Like somebody had been magicked, right? Like that's not something that we would see in real life, right? But like magicked into looking exactly like this person. All the years of searching, they came up with a plan. They found each other. Everything had been resolved. They're at this climactic moment. Everything he's saying is to the person he believes he loves. And when he realizes he's been tricked, he does everything in his power to right it. And the girl sees that. And that was really impactful to see the hero fail, but also be redeemed because the girl, like I said, like going back to that original idea of them coming on this commonality of this emotional connection. When there's that level of a deep understanding between two people, the trivial stuff doesn't matter, right? Like, they know who each other are. So whatever else happens, whatever the two people do, if they make a mistake, they do something wrong, they'll come together and decide where they're at, right? Because the things don't matter, it's where they're standing, and they knew at the end that they still loved each other, right? It's not like, the love was still there for her and for him, for each other. So I know this is why I cried during the movie. I got real deep. Okay, now let's talk about the characters, because there are some characters, and boy, they are fun. The frog, John Bob John, John Baba John. I don't know, and I'm forgetting. But oh my goodness, he's a frog, and he is just he's a wonderful character. Honestly, when I watched the movie, I was like, oh my goodness. When I was a kid, this was my favorite character. He had all the jokes, and he had this bravado and false confidence in himself to such a degree, right? Like deep down, it was a very fascinating. He was a very interesting character because he was a frog that believed he was a prince trapped in a frog's body. But at the end of the day, he was just a frog. But he held himself to the characteristics of a prince, right? And he tried to abide his life by those characteristics. And by the end of the film, all of his bravado and his falsities, trying to turn himself into a human prince, right? By the end of the film, he did turn into a prince, but he turned into a prince because he had done the qualities that he believed a prince had. So because his whole goal, like throughout the film, was to get a kiss from the girl to turn into a human. But he kept going all about it the wrong way. He kept trying to, be overdoing it and these random acts and just not in the right direction. However, hilariously, but he keeps trying and testing himself and testing his confidence and he keeps plunging into these really like the things that the animals have to go through is just way like they carry the whole movie. They've got to do all the missions to get people out of prison, get the maps, without these animals, they are dead in the water. I'm telling you right now. And the frog plays a lot of crucial roles. And it was really cool to see that like by the end of the movie, like he gets the kiss and he doesn't turn into a human per se, but he walks around like he is a human. And it was really interesting, again, going back to that idea of belief, he believed so much that he was a prince. And then when he finally got what he thought he needed to be a prince, he was a prince. It didn't matter what anybody else saw. It didn't matter. Like, to him at that moment, from now on, he was a prince. Human or frog, he was a prince. And that was really cool to see because he finally realized that he needed to accept himself. He wanted to be a prince. He drove himself to strive for the characteristics of being a prince, and he became a prince. It didn't matter what anybody else thinks, says, does, whatever. What he wanted to be came out. Then you turn to the turtle, which the turtle by far stole the show for me this time around. If you watch this movie, the turtle is the best because he is the best at, like, he brings the characteristics of a turtle live and screaming to a degree that's like, what? Because a turtle, it was a very much turtle in the hare scenario. Like, every time the rabbit races the turtle wins, and that's because he outsmarts the rabbit. And it was very, very similar in this. But what was really happening is he was applying his speed where he needed to. Instead of being like the frog who was always jumping into action and jumping into things, right? Which ultimately helped him because by jumping into things, it tested the frog until he was able to reach out and become who he wanted to be. The turtle knew who he was from the get-go. He knew deep down deep that he was a turtle, and turtles are slow. But they're only slow because they apply their energy where it needs to be applied. The turtle was everywhere he needed to be right at the exact time. And he said exactly what he needed to say when he needed to say it. And he took his time to say it because what he said needed to be said precisely because he knew time was of the essence. He didn't have a lot of time to ramble on and do things because he's slow. So he had to say the things that were important, and so he had to think things through. So it's not a turtle. Yes, a turtle is slow, but he's not slow on, by his own fault. It's an intentional slowness. And boy, like when he applies his speed, like there are moments like when he's facing crocodiles and he gets to go in the water, and that's when his speed really kicks into like physicality, and he is the fastest thing you've ever seen in the entire what. You're like, where is this turtle going? And he's basically just like, AKA, my nickname is Speed, meow. And he just is just like whipping around these crocodiles like, can't get me, can't get me, can't catch me, can't catch me. And you're like, what is happening here? So really fun, interesting characters. I really enjoyed like the animals. And then you also have the villain, which I wasn't really going to talk about the villain because, he's kind of just like a basic, like he was hurt and then, he basically hurt others. But it was two things I found interesting. One, when he first gets banished, everybody in the kingdom told the king that he should just kill this person, right? And because he's going to come back, he's going to do bad things. This is a person who has been hurt and wants revenge so badly that he's not going to stop. But the king showed mercy, because it's even if somebody's done incredibly wrong to you and you are in fear, there are like you still have to like what you're going to put yourself into their shoes, or you're going to hold by your standards. And by those king's standards, he was still, a nice king, right? He tried to do the right thing by just banishing this person, and maybe they'd go find life somewhere else. But of course, like this person couldn't let it go, and he came back. And I kept thinking of, and I've been hearing this a lot, talked all over the place, but this idea of hurt people. And it was no clearly evident, and it was so, when I really looked at the character, you can see the pain, right? Because anybody who tries to, and of course there would be cases for everything, but in this scenario, like when somebody tries to inflict pain and just continues to do it, it's because their pain isn't acknowledged. They can't face it, and nobody else is recognizing it. So they think by putting their pain onto others that the others will see what they're going through. And that's how I see it, and because you could see like every time he didn't want to hurt these people, but he wasn't being hurt, and he had been hurt. He had been dealing with this pain for so long. and for so long nobody heard him, and now he just one way or the other people are going to hear him, and we unfortunately see that a lot in today's world. With all of our access and communication and technology, we put a lot of people down and we belittle a lot of people and we hurt people, and we don't realize the effect that that sometimes has. And it was just an interesting idea to have throughout this film of, the understanding that, when people hurt other people, usually it's because they're hurt and they're hurting inside. And it's hard for the person that's being attacked by that hurt to see that and try and come up with a way to ease that pain. But we all have pain, and easing it is a totally different conversation. So I just thought it was an interesting idea that they kind of played that out. And unfortunately, it consumed him to the end, and he lost, and he lost, and he lost his life. But it was, and that's sometimes, but when you leave a trail of destruction too. But that's sometimes how that fire goes out when it rages, when it's been raging for that long, with such quiet desperation. Whoa, we went, see how, it's a roller coaster here, folks. All right. So, wow, that was, yeah, I mean, this movie was just a lot of fun. I cannot believe the idea. I just cannot believe that this animated film that went, I was like, oh man, we're in for a doozy. Like, I thought I was going to be bored, and actually after 30 minutes of having so many ideas, I thought I thought I was going to forget the ideas, forget the fun ideas, only focus on I don't know what I was going to do. So it was interesting to be able to just sit and watch this movie and enjoy it and make all these connections and go on this roller coaster because that's what a film is supposed to do. You're supposed to be connected to these emotions and connected to these ideas and travel on this roller coaster, and it'll be different for everybody. Some people are going to watch this movie and just enjoy it. Like if I was a kid, I would just laugh at the animals that are cracking jokes, and there's a lot of funny jokes in here, and the banter between back and forth of everybody. It's actually a really comedical movie, but I also saw a lot of heart to the film, and I also saw a lot of emotions, a lot of things played out, and a lot of interconnectivity between the light and the dark, and that pull that we often see in a lot of things. So I don't know. If you watch the movie, go for it. If you don't watch the movie, don't go for it. But I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate you guys always sticking around for these random ideas and thoughts. With that, that's all I got. So away we go. Thank you so much, and until next time.